Hi everybody, and welcome back to Carols of Wisdom for my first Snow by Year. Merry Christmas, everyone! In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 of my favorite things that aren't material things. So before we get into my list of 5 favorite things that I've chosen in different categories, I first want to say thank you so much for being here at any point of this year. It doesn't matter how recently you've found this channel or how long you've been here. I wanted to say thank you for being here in any way, shape, or form. Your presence really is the best present, even in this kind of virtual medium of communication, delayed communication. It's obviously not really Christmas morning or Christmas Day as I'm filming this, but the spirit remains. The Santa hat and the red lipstick for a Christmas gig later today. The festive spirit is here. Also, housekeeping announcement. This is the last day of Vlogmas, but I will be back on Saturday, and we will get into the recap videos for this first Snow by Year. So, what did I not buy? How much money did I save by not buying things? What did I buy? And how much of a fail was the Snow by Year really? And kind of plans, year in overview, and then plans for next year. So if you're interested in any of that, come back and join me this weekend. I also wanted to make a quick note about how sometimes Christmas Day, if you are not around your friends and family, can be kind of a sad and lonely day. So if you are in that boat this year, I'm here for you, and hopefully you still are able to have a good, relaxing, maybe self-care day. And by self-care, we're not talking about the things you could buy. Trying not to propel you towards shopping and trying to give you a little bit of human connection right here, me to you right now, if that's the boat you're in this year. I've been there too. Let's get into the list of 5 favorite things for this year, for right now, for all time possibly, maybe not, but some of these are long-term favorite things of mine. So the first category I have on this list, so maybe I'll do a little preview. I'm gonna go through music, books, food, movies, and things to do. So you can share your 5 favorite things in each of those categories along with me in the comments. I would love to know your favorites in all of those areas of life. So my first favorite in the music category is an old release, an old album release, right? I think it was actually released in 2014, so it's 10 years ago now. In fact, do I want to fact check that to make sure I'm not spewing false information? Yeah, 2014. And this is an album by Hozier, which, he's a popular artist, very, very popular. And I think he recently had a song hit #1, and it was largely driven by the popularity of it on TikTok, I think, the song Too Sweet. But I only recently, somehow listened to the entirety of his first debut album. And part of this is probably because I have kind of stopped listening to albums in their entirety as kind of my go-to. I used to do that when I was in college still, we'd sit down, and sometimes I had friends that I would do this with, and it was super fun. But we would sit down with a new album and listen to it from start to finish, just listening to the album as it was kind of put together, as it was conceived by the artist. So I don't know why I stopped doing this. I guess constraints on time and maybe losing touch with the friends that I used to do that with. And I don't know, honestly, because I guess I could try to do that on commutes, but I have recently gotten sucked into the allure of education, entertainment through education, and I've honestly been spending more of my commute time listening to YouTube videos, the audio in the background, or podcasts, or even the occasional audiobook. And I really need to get back into music, because what a joy this 10-year-old album has proven to be. And why? Why is it taking me so long to listen to the whole thing? And it feels like this album is actually the defining, it's December. I am filming in December, right? Even if it's not Christmas Day. This album has become kind of the defining December 2024 Christmas album for me, despite it not containing any Christmas-related songs or carols at all. So it's just something about the warm and fuzzy spirit of it, which, maybe that's a little bit of a weird way to describe a Hozier album, but it's something about how it's very expressive, right? So Hozier's music is maybe known for being like kind of about a lot of kind of sexual kind of connotations, content, and religion and love, I guess, you know? And so it's kind of the open, expressive nature of his music is kind of something that gives me, you know, the warm, fuzzy, festive holiday feelings. So that's kind of my logic towards that, I guess. And I also didn't realize, you know, I had heard all of the greatest hits that have been on the radio, and I've heard some additional, you know, some songs here and there that he's written. But I didn't realize that he was as kind of rock and roll as some of his stuff is on this album, you know, with the kind of dirty bluesy guitars and even experimenting with like Spanish sounding clave beats and kind of the Arabian scales and etc. And I was just really impressed, surprised, and honestly, like, I know it's going to be super stereotypical to say, but it's kind of like I have a new kind of musical crush on this piece of art, right? It's not the person necessarily, but I am kind of in the infatuation stage of my relationship with this album of music. And now I definitely need to go and listen to the rest of his output since 2014, I mean, 10 years ago, and do it in the same way. Do it in its entirety, you know, from start to finish. It really actually reminded me, parts of this first album reminded me of the Black Keys, which is another one of my favorite kind of more rock and roll, bluesy kind of bands, you know, heavy guitar, and kind of expressive singing, I guess. It almost seems to me that there was a period of music when I was growing up, and maybe I was just listening to the wrong stuff, but at the same time, I'm thinking of like radio music, right? And it feels like there was a period where a lot of it was kind of processed or repressed. So like singers did not sing with the level of expression that they might have had inside of themselves, and or music was processed to the levels of taking this kind of thing out, or, you know, kind of censoring that kind of expression of a voice. You know, it might be like the breathy voice, the voice crack, the voice kind of going out of range, or being kind of more, you know, different levels, whispered at times and belted at other times, and just the range of the voice in radio pop music, right? I'm not talking about soul and R&B singers who have probably been doing this since the beginning of the style of music, or, you know, jazz and other genres. I'm not an expert in any music other than classical, Western classical at that, and it's taken a lot of my time to become an expert in that niche area of music, because it's pretty difficult to play a classical instrument at the level that one needs to be able to sustain themselves on it as a career, you know, be good enough to be paid to do it. But I can hear things, right? I have ears, you have ears, we can all hear these things. And let me know if you've experienced this too, where you, you know, I don't know if you listen to radio pop music of this day and age. I think there has been a perception. I see some of my classical friends even sharing memes about how pop music is all the same, and pop music is shallow, and pop music is not deep and expressive anymore, or whatever. But I actually really disagree with that statement. I feel like in the last, I guess, 10 years since this Hosier album came out and other things, it's become more expressive, and singers especially, you know, the front singer of a group or band, or, you know, the title artist, have become more openly expressive. And, you know, other singers that come to mind in this vein are Chappell Roan, even singers that are more maybe stereotypically popular like Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo. You know, they have very expressive inflections in their voice. I was even listening to Ed Sheeran a while back, and I guess, you know, he's maybe in the last generation of super popular artists, and he's also got a lot of inflections in his tone. And maybe I'm just starting to hear this more because I'm paying attention more. There's an aspect of that as well that we'll circle back to when I talk about my last favorite thing. But I wonder if this is just my perception. Even when I listen to artists like, you know, Taylor Swift, for example, I feel like she's a little more clean. Like her voice is more, you know, it's less gritty, it's more polished perhaps. And again, maybe I'm just projecting what I'm hearing or noticing. I don't know. Let me know if you notice the same thing. And it's not, I'm not saying I don't like Taylor Swift. I'm just saying I get different feelings, different vibes from her work than I do from the work of Chappell Roan. And it's not just the subject matter, right? Like, yeah, they talk about different things, sing about different things, but I just feel the vocal expressivity much more in maybe the younger artists, the newer artists. They're not necessarily younger in age, but, you know, younger in popularity and notoriety and whatever. So that was possibly too long of a rant for my first favorite thing here, my music album. And again, just revealing how much I actually live under a rock. And, you know, I have favorite artists that I've had long term. My first ever album was actually a Green Day album that I purchased with my own money in a Walmart when I was like 12 or something. And from there, you know, I've always been interested in the popular music. It's not just been listening to classical. So starting from the Green Day, going into kind of like indie bands, kind of older bands, you know, I had a Talking Heads phase. I had, you know, the indie bands that were just starting out at the time. Neutral Milk Hotel, Spoon was coming out then. I actually got to see them live more recently in Houston, you know, a few years ago. And Belle and Sebastian, Velvet Underground, you know, I had that phase. And then I listened to the earlier albums by Kings of Leon because of the movie Disturbia, and Taper Jean Girl being at the end of that movie, and the guitar riff just immediately catching my ear. So that was a kind of more popular band that was a favorite of mine. And I don't know that I really embraced loving popular music, you know, loving what everybody else loves until later, until college, really. Not even college in New Zealand, although I did have kind of a love affair with the song Thrift Shop, which was super popular and stayed popular for a really long time, right? And then when I came to America again, I had friends that listened to, again, more of the indie music. There was that friend who wrote about the band Sun Killed Moon in the book that I had the inscription in. There was, what was that band? My boyfriend at the time made me a playlist. Started with the X's, had like The Butterfly Effect by Mux Mool, Moving Cities by Phase something or other. I still have the list somewhere, so I should maybe revisit that. But when I got to Texas, I kind of re-entered the world of popular music, and I got to see Kendrick Lamar, which was incredible, and vividly remember listening to the album that came out during the years I was there between 2016 and 18 with some friends, and that was really powerful. It was a really effective album. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm going to move on from this now because we'll circle back to it at the end when I talk about my last favorite thing. Okay, leaving an editing note here, just so I don't leave you hanging. If you wanted a classical recommendation, I just saw a friend's DMA rehearsal that he posted a clip from on social media, and it reminded me what an incredible work of art the Shostakovich Viola Sonata is. So if you've been enjoying the viola this month, maybe check it out. It's not exactly a Christmas carol, but it is great. So the second category is favorite books. Now this one was tricky actually because it's been a long time since I read a book that I would consider impactful on me and entertaining to read. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not really a nonfiction reader. So a lot of the books that I have shared on this channel, I wouldn't classify as favorite status or enjoyable to read. You know, like they were informative, they opened my mind. The ones I've talked about directly are The Hacking of the American Mind, Ultra Processed People, The Four Agreements, and Wanting by Luke Burgess. So there's, I guess, 4 that I've talked about on this channel so far this year. And I have also read, prior to this No Buy Year, other books related to conscious consuming. You know, Consumed, Fashionopolis, The Curated Closet. I still have some of those to kind of reread and make sure I don't miss any tidbits before I donate them or try to pass them on. And I plan to do all that next year, you know, grand plans and all that. But none of those books really stood out to me as, wow, that gripped me, that grabbed me, that's a favorite book. And I you know, I have not really been moved by a book that I've read in a long time. So I'm actually going to cheat a little bit and grab a book that I haven't actually read yet for this segment of the video. And I guess this is a hopeful, right? This is a hopeful, maybe this is going to be a favorite of the year kind of book for me. So let me go get that. Editing self, adding another note. You lied. You forgot about Crying in H Mart, which was actually a very moving and beautifully written book. So count that as a favorite of this year. Here we go. I'm back. And before I share what this book is, I will say that I have read some fictional books this year, but they're all kind of in the realms of cheap thrillers. You know, I do like the author Leanne Moriarty, but her books are not exactly what I would call powerful rereads. They're fun, they're entertaining, they keep me reading. Some of them do have things that I think about. You know, the one that I remember the most is the one about the cellist, because that was very relatable to me. The cellist was preparing for auditions and had a couple of girls, a couple of kids, right? And something, no spoilers, but there we go. That one was relatable. But in general, I don't want to keep those books. They're not favorites in my kind of long-term collection. What I hope is going to be a favorite, and what I've already experienced some connections with, is this book by Rainbow Rowell that I added on to a Target order because that was the only place I could get the book Vulture Capitalism that was recommended to me in one of my comments. And this was like the Black Friday week, buy two, get one free or whatever for books. So I added this one on since I was already getting two different books and needed the free add-on, or why would I pass up the free add-on? Anyway, no buy fail again. But this is Rainbow Rowell's Slow Dance. I had also seen Lena Norms talking about this. I think it's a new release that she was talking about. And I had another random connection pop up when I opened something that's in my Christmas stocking and, you know, opened the package for it before I put it in there. I got some bright blue makeup, bright blue eye product. I will talk about all that when I go through the things that I bought during my No Buy Year. But the brand had this card in the package, and it has a quote on it. And the quote is actually from Rainbow Rowell, a book of hers that's not this one, an early one. But the quote is as follows. "She never looked nice. She looked like art, and art isn't supposed to look nice. It's supposed to make you feel something." And then the last line here is, I hope this brand inspires you to celebrate your uniqueness each and every day. And I'm not going to share what that was. I don't want to influence anybody to be interested in that brand or anything like that. But I am hopeful that this may become a favorite. And this is maybe a weird favorites video where I'm sharing a favorite that I haven't even read yet and don't actually know if it's a favorite. But there we go. Now you know a little bit about my approach to books and what I am hoping will become maybe the favorite of this year if I end up reading it before the year's over. Okay, the third favorite thing is in the realms of food. And I am selecting my chocolate chip cookies recipe for this item, or my chocolate chip cookies that I make using a specific recipe. This is a particular recipe that I have veganized for many, many years when I was following a more strict vegan diet. I did make these cookies with an egg and real butter, as the recipe calls for, and I actually prefer them with the flax egg. So the next time I make them, I've probably already made them again since filming this and editing it, whatever, making them for Santa Claus yesterday night. I will use the flax egg again because the egg, you know, what the egg does for cookies is it makes them rise a little more, makes them a little more cakey. And I actually love a chewy, kind of, not crunchy, but chewy chocolate chip cookie. So gonna do that again with the flax egg. Maybe I'll stick with the real butter again to avoid the processed oils, but, you know, do this hybrid kind of vegetarian diet. But yeah, those cookies are my favorite dessert of all time. I'm a cookie person. I, can take or leave your cakes. I can take or leave your ice creams. I can take or leave your kind of fancier desserts. I do like a good chocolate pastry, but I would probably choose the cookie as the best dessert of all time, the best sweet treat of all time. So chocolate chip cookies, if you want to know what recipe I use, I'll link it down below. It's not mine, so I'm not an original recipe creator or anything like that. I had a huge baking phase when I was in high school in New Zealand, and I used to bake all the time. Every weekend I would make a selection of recipes. I cooked as well, but mostly I was excited about baking, and so I have tried numerous different recipes for different things. So I have tried a lot of chocolate chip cookie recipes, and this one is my favorite. The fourth thing is favorite movie, and I've mentioned this before, and it's been a long time since I've watched it, but I still hold that place for the movie Fight Club. And it's kind of, again, going to inspire the future direction of this channel in a gentle way. So a little bit of foreshadowing there, perhaps. I really just like that movie. It was a movie that made me feel things, and it's a movie that I would consider the best representation of a book that a movie has ever been. So the narration was kind of very parallel, and the characters were, at least in my opinion, pretty accurate to how they were written, how they were conceived to be written. And I mean, maybe that's a favorite book for me too, actually. I don't own a copy, but I kind of want to, so that I can reread it at will and kind of feel the physical pages of that in my hand. So maybe that'll be the next book that, when I do a book donation at Half Price Books or book trade-in or whatever, maybe that'll be the next book that I buy with the meager credit that they give you for taking your books there. You know, you can take 20 books in there and come out with like $5 of credit. So you go in with 20 and you come out with 1, right? So maybe that's the book I need to put on my list for the next credit use when I go and do that in person. And that Pixies song at the end of the movie, yes, like so much yes. I really need to do a cover of that one on viola. That takes me to the fifth favorite thing, which is the favorite thing to do. And right now, and actually kind of in my fantasy life all the way up until now, it's been playing pop covers on the viola. And it's just fun. It's kind of fulfilling my secret dream of being a background music artist and also getting to play everything. So as a violist, we don't often get the melodies. We're not the melody instrument of any organized classical group. When we do get the melody, it's an epic moment usually. You know, it's either very beautiful or very epic. There's a moment where the violists take the solo in, or, you know, the solo melody as a section in Bruckner 7, I want to say. Or is it 4? I am not very good with names. Not very good with remembering classical names. It might be Bruckner 4. Sorry, I will look it up and put it up here. But it's an epic, there's an excerpt from Bruckner 4. Is that what I'm thinking of? I'm not thinking of the slow second movement excerpt where it's like monks walking in the mountains. I'm thinking of like the epic first movement moment where it's like, ha, and it's the violas. So anyway, there are moments where violas get to shine. But it's not all the time, and it doesn't exercise the full realms of my creativity like doing the silly little pop covers that you've seen snippets of every day this Vlogmas. And doing those every day, or lining up enough little snippets to post one every day, every video, has kind of gotten those juices flowing again, those creative juices, as gross as that phrase kind of sounds. And it's reawakened my both abilities and interest, and, you know, gotten the effort started, gotten the ball rolling down the hill, so it's easier now, of just sitting down and doing it. I mentioned in a video earlier that I always find it difficult to start because it's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult for me to do. It's not something that's like a walk in the park yet. I have to think a lot. I make mistakes. I have to kind of redo things. I've been trying not to redo too much during this series because it's not about perfection. It's about the process. So there have been kind of mistakes and things that are out of tune or whatever. But hopefully most people aren't going to notice that unless they are violists themselves and can hear the intricacies of like, oh, maybe she wasn't happy with that. But anyway, I have whetted the stone to resume this habit, to kind of jump right back into it and hopefully develop some full song covers that I can be really kind of proud of doing, and experiment with trying to capture the expressivities of today's pop voices through my instrument. I find that a strings cover of any song, no matter kind of how raunchy the song might be in real life with the lyrics or whatever, like a lot of the songs of today as well are very kind of sexually expressive, which is great, but it's not what everybody might want to hear as the background music for a family-friendly event or family-friendly venue out and about, right? So the beautiful thing about a viola pop cover is that it removes all of the suggestive nature of the words and still kind of preserves the music, but also in a more kind of refined and inoffensive way. Not saying that music is offensive, but I'm just saying that it's kind of impossible to be mad about a string player playing a melody because it's kind of censored a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for? Watered down, softened, classicized. Made classical is what I mean by that, not classes. What's the word I'm looking for? Sedated? Tranquilized? It's some there's a word that I'm looking for that is not coming to mind right now. It's like made lighter, kind of, it's gonna come to me as I'm editing, hopefully, or maybe it won't, and then I'll just have this frustrating period of trying to think of this word. Desensitized? Destigmatized? Whatever, I have to leave this here, as frustrating as that is. But you put any kind of melody, no matter the connotations, on a string instrument, and it's like, now it's in this box of inoffense, in my opinion. It might not be the most gripping and captivating thing for everybody, but actually at our local airport, the background music is pop music on strings. And I always joke when I go there that I need to do this live for the airport patrons because the backing pop music is honestly not that great sometimes, and it lacks most of the expression of the original pop song because it sounds, like sometimes when classical musicians play a pop song, sometimes it sounds like they don't actually know the pop song, and I'm guilty of this. I used to do gigs in Houston all the time where it was a lot of weddings and we would just show up and play the music. There was no rehearsal, there was no some of the songs I just had never heard before. There was this one song, I think it was like a Lady Gaga song that I just hadn't heard. And when we finished the song, I was like half a beat off of everybody. And I was like, uh-oh, that was probably not how it was supposed to sound. But I had no idea because I just didn't know the song. And I was playing one of the middle kind of filler voices for the second half of the song. So, and then when you're playing a melody of a pop song that you don't really know, it's kind of hard to know. You don't know what the words are supposed to be, and etc. So what I would like to do is to provide a representation of these pop songs where I do know the words and I do know the vocal expression, and I try to imitate that as best as I can on my instrument. And that's actually been a fascinating thing to try to do, even just in little snippets during this Vlogmas series. I discovered that it takes a lot of practice to try to sound like Mariah Carey, and I just couldn't do it in the time that I had for the recording of that little snippet. I just could not. And I would probably need to actually write out some of the notes in order to imitate her little vocal flourishes, because I am not a jazz musician and I don't really know how to make those runs make sense. The little ooh, can't even do it with my voice, but the things that she does, and I would love to be able to do that intuitively, but it's just not intuitive for me. And I hope that by imitating, I can make it more a part of my natural repertoire, make it more intuitive, make it more something that I'm aware of and have at my fingertips as a creative tool. Even, I can't do that during classical performances, obviously. I can't just be in the symphony or be in a quartet and just suddenly do a Mariah Carey riff. That's not really going to work out. But I could find opportunities in my kind of solo projects to do that kind of stuff. So anyway, this has turned into a long video. I guess everybody kind of likes to talk about their favorite things, but here we are. I would love to hear your favorite things too. Your favorite things that are not things, favorite things that you can't buy. So you can use the categories that I used in this video. So I had music, books, food, movies, and things to do. So tell me your 5 favorite things in these categories. And if you're watching this on Christmas Day, Merry Christmas to you. If you're watching this between Christmas Day and Saturday's video, Merry Christmas to you late anyway, happy holiday season. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays, happy whatever it is that you are living through right now, possibly celebrating, possibly not. Happy almost change of the year season time. And with that, I will say goodbye for now and see you on Saturday. It's time for me to go record some more Christmas Carol snippets because we are still operating in the past here.